4000 BC. That's 6,000 years ago. The estimated world population of humans was somewhere between 60 and 70 million people total around the entire world. That is the population today of roughly the United Kingdom. The Bronze Age was just kicking off, wheels were all the rage, and curiously, writing was popping up in multiple places all around Eurasia. The Abrahamic religions, they were about 2,000 years away from being established from their auspicious beginnings. But in the Americas, there was a tribe of individuals with elongated skulls which would be lost to the sands of time. Until now. In an article titled DNA Sequencing of Ancient Remains by Colombian Scientists Reveals Unknown Human Lineage from Reuters by Julia Sims Cobb, that is a typo on my part, we get the following. Bogota. Scientists in Colombia have discovered a previously unknown lineage of human beings after fully sequencing the DNA of ancient remains excavated at archaeological sites near the country's capital, Bogota. The group, called the Chekwa after the area of Nimocan municipality where their remains were excavated in 1992, are about 6,000 years old and have never had their genome fully sequenced before. We have started to compare with other individuals from other parts of the Americas. We found that the individuals from the pre-ceramic period found here in the Cundiboyacense Plateau have a lineage that hasn't been reported, said Dr. Andrea Casas, a researcher at the National University's Genetics Institute. It's a new lineage. This is extremely exciting. Now, as for where they are, this is Colombia. This is Bogota. They are right around there, right in the heart of Colombia. This is interesting because of where it is. This is right in the heart of Colombia, but Colombia is right off of the Panama Canal. These would have been the first lands you could get to after leaving North America, right? Getting down to this South American plateau here. This is a lineage lost, a genetic dead end. And considering, so one of the implications of this, that we are finding peoples who were completely lost to genetic sequencing. And this is not the first tribe like this that I have heard of in South America, right? Genetically isolated peoples. Because of this, that estimated 60 to 70 million individual population that they are claiming the world had in 4000 BC, a lot of that is based on genetic reverse engineering a genetic footprint. Well, if you're finding people that have no whisper in that genetic lineage, then you cannot be as certain about what you are talking. And I think that this is a bigger deal than not. So I think that the relatively low population of humans assumed in the sort of Bronze Age and pre-Bronze Age period is one of the things that makes people pretty sure a lot of fantastic stuff wasn't going on. What do I mean by that? Well, if the world population was 60 to 70 million, 4000 BC, well, in 5000 BC, maybe the population was 30 to 40 million. In 6000 BC, maybe the population was 25 to 32 million, right? So this is, I think, the general assumption here. There is genetically a bottleneck, I think, around that era of human evolution, or the human time period, the human time scale, where they think that we almost went extinct. But that's because we don't have any idea how many tribes like this, how many groups of people, how many cities, how many settlements like this that were completely erased from the genetic lineage exist. So, carrying forward, we get this bit from the article. Sequences from 6 people found in the group were complete enough to be added to the project, which includes other remains excavated at various projects between 1987 and 2003. Unlike the other remains, unlike the Chequa, shared genetic commonalities with remains found in Panama, Cassis said, indicating they are part of groups which migrated through Central America and Colombia as human populations spread south from the Bering Strait 20,000 years ago. So, this group of people, this isolated group of people, was not like that, and somehow between 20,000 years ago and 6,000 years ago, these people were isolated enough that they have their own genetic lineage, which is not passed down. Uh, this is a wonder how people this close to each other had zero genetic likeness. And it does suggest, I think, different waves of immigration from different places. There are multiple theories that perhaps people from Africa had traveled to South America long ago because of some of the art that is present there. There are ideas that Polynesian peoples had found South America. All sorts of different ideas about how immigration to South America had come about. And I think that we are going to inch closer and closer to figuring out. But this is some of the stuff that they had here, these slightly elongated skulls there. A lot of, in this era, a lot of skull binding. So I'm not sure what's going on with skull binding. I hope we understand at some point what it was that these people were trying to accomplish with that, because the the wild theories on it are too compelling to wash away, and I want something to be true. I want us to have some semblance of knowledge about what that is. The article continues. So where did the Chequa come from? And what happened to them? The scientists are not sure, but it is possible the group represents an isolated, nomadic hunter-gatherer community, Cassis said. It's one thing that absolutely infuriates me about archaeology from this sort of time period, this sort of prehistoric time period. Everything is religious. Everything is nomadic hunter-gatherer. So there's no other explaining to be had other than, well, this is what they worshipped. And then, so this building has some religious context. And then they're hunter-gatherers, and we have to remember that. So they wouldn't have had permanent dwellings. Well, for these people to have been completely genetically isolated, they had to have had, pretty definitely had, permanent housing. So very interesting that this is popping up and that we have access to these skulls right here, this genetic sequencing, because it does tell us something that we would not have had any way of knowing without these skulls, without this genetic sequencing. And then the article gives us the following. The group could have died out because of climate conditions, disease, or lack of food, she added. They have no known descendants. The Chekwa skull is notably more elongated than the skulls of the other populations found in the plateau around Bogota, said Dr. Jose Vicente Rodriguez, a professor of physical anthropology at the university, as he delicately handled the cranium. Unlike later skulls whose teeth show evidence of cavities, the Chekwa skull shows evidence of abscesses on the front upper part of its jaw, indicating its long departed owner may have lost teeth to infection. The diets of early populations were likely influenced by volcanic eruptions, which would have damaged the above ground food source and encouraged people to eat root vegetables like potatoes and tubers, he said. So, one of the things that is worth noting here is that it's possible, I suppose, that these skulls were elongated by bonding. It's also possible that this was simply a different, not a fully, not differentiated by speciation, but the same way that certain groups of people grow shorter or taller than other people, so too can differences in skull size pop up, which would suggest that these people were around in South America much, much, much longer than just a few thousand years. So these would have been an isolated people in South America long enough to have evolved differences in skulls. So very fascinating that this is popping up, that these things are being discovered now and being proven as, look, it's not just an individual aberration. It's not just one group of people has a little bit of a different bone structure. No, these are genetically isolated individuals. So who were these people? And why did they vanish? Considering that the mysteries of the Bronze Age collapse just over the way from this and a few thousand years later is still a mystery to us. And not only is the Bronze Age collapse still a mystery to us, but we only recently defined it as a particularly mysterious event in civilizational history. And these were civilizations, by the way, that had writing. So to have had writing and witnessed the Bronze Age collapse, and here we are a few thousand years later, unable to put things together, just tells you how far out a mystery like this with these skulls might be. But because of science and DNA sequencing, we do now have the ability to differentiate mysteries to wonder about. Without the genetic sequencing here, we would have had no idea that this was really even a mystery at all. And I think that it is only a matter. So these skulls have been around from 1982, and they were found all the way up through, what was it, 2003, I think they said. How much more science like this is there to be done? How much more DNA sequencing is there to be had in these little niche situations in archaeology? We're still digging up all sorts of stuff in Siberia, for example, that is just frozen under all sorts of ice, just frozen. And you can still get some DNA out of some pretty ancient things there. So this is how we have the return of dire wolves, for example. So I'm not suggesting that we should bring these people back to life, but it is interesting that questions like this are at least explorable through DNA evidence, right? That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what I do here, this is in the Archaeology News playlist here on the channel, so consider hitting the subscribe button, stick around for that, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.